Hello, hello, YouTube. Let us today talk about warrior mindset. We'll see how good this video does. This was highly requested. Alrighty then. We're going to talk about some general mindset that you should have, even as just like a prepared citizen. And then we're going to talk about some mindset and some stress and fatigue on the body and the mind in actual combat scenarios. And then we're going to talk about post-combat mental health and how to best deal with yourself after said combat. All right. Warrior mindset. Generally speaking, everybody should be thinking about these things if you are considering yourself the sheepdog, the defender, the father figure, whatever, right? For starters, we need to be situationally aware. So, establishing a baseline. What that means is anytime no matter where you're at, it could be vastly different places, right? Could be Zimbabwe, could be China, could be Philadelphia, could be Tennessee. Doesn't matter. There's a normal way people behave in the area that you're at. Okay? That's called the baseline. So even if you get dropped off somewhere that you're unfamiliar with, you should very rapidly be able to identify the baseline for that area. Okay? And then first thing you want to do is avoid breaks in that baseline. So anybody or anything that looks off, that's not acting normal, whatever normal for that area is, you want to avoid those people. Avoid the crazy crackhead. Avoid the guy that's super rich and walking around with jewelry in the hood where nobody has money. Avoid the disturbed vegetation in the middle of the jungle where people shouldn't be, right? Avoid the breaks in the baseline. All right. When you're dealing with people up close, you want to watch their hands. Okay, that's going to be the most important thing. Pay attention to their hands. Understand the exits and avenues of approach of wherever you're at, right? So not only the physical exits, doorways, windows, whatever you can get through, wherever the nearest one is, but also understand the primary avenues of approach for that building or whatever the case is, right? The open shop way that you're at, the stadium, wherever the main road is, or the main roads that come and go. Those are the avenues of approach. So you need to be aware of those. Those are where people, bad guys, can quickly come up on you and come at you from, and that's where you can get away from the bad guys. All right? Caveating off that, you need to know your nearest cover and an escape plan. So just generally as you're walking around, think about what things can stop what kinds of projectiles and where the nearest ones of those things are. That's called cover. It's things that can stop bullet. And then an escape plan, right? Where's the nearest exit and how does that correlate to an avenue of approach? Maybe you have a couple of those running in your head, right? In case they come through wherever your primary exit is, you want to go to your secondary exit plan. All right. And last little tidbit, this here is something that I like to do. Don't expose your back to people. All right. So if you're carrying a gun, open or concealed, especially in the city in a high urban environment, you're going to want to not, as best you can, leave your back exposed to people. I have in parentheses here, stand sideways in lines, right? So if I'm in a long line, especially if people aren't respecting my bubble very well in a long line, I will stand sideways. That way I can see out of the peripherals the person in front of me and the person behind me. And there's nobody standing directly behind me in a blind spot just for an extended period of time. It's just something I like to do. Yep. So all this up here, you don't have to take it too extra crazy serious where you're like the Terminator when you walk around. But it is something that you need to have in the back of your mind. You need to not be thinking about getting a foot rub and watching Everybody Loves Raymond when you get home. You need to be thinking about these sorts of things a little bit in the background. Got it? Cool. Now we're going to talk about Cooper's color code. Cooper's color code is a way to talk about the headspace that an individual is in, correlating it with color. Obviously, Cooper's color code. Cool. White is no danger. Your guard is completely down, right? This is like a small child is in the white. They don't even understand what danger is. You chilling, watching Everybody Loves Raymond, getting your foot rubbed. Once you get home, right? You're probably in the white. Cool. Yellow is you're aware and looking for possible danger, right? So it's not that danger is imminent because that's orange, but it's just while you're outside of the house, you should be in the yellow. You're aware that danger could arise at some point, and you're generally aware of that and looking for it. Cool. Orange is danger is imminent, right? You're on a patrol to contact, and you expect to get shot at by the enemy, so you're looking at them. You're a law enforcement officer that's just got a call to an active shooter. You're in your house, and all of a sudden you hear gunshots like right outside. Okay, immediately go into the orange. Danger is imminent. I'm probably about to have to fight for my life at any moment. Great. Red is actively engaged with danger. So once we are in that fight, once I'm shooting at somebody or they're shooting at me, or I'm hand to hand with somebody who's got a knife, or whatever the case is, right? I'm fighting raging flood waters in a swift water rescue team. Once I'm actively engaged with a life and death scenario, danger, I'm in the red. Okay, and black is complete panic, right? So it's an overwhelming of danger that forces you to break down, right? I have panic, freeze, flight, or surrender. Typically, the only way you get to black is by being in white, and then danger happens all of a sudden, and it just makes your nervous system shut down, and your brain isn't able to initiate the proper response. Cool. So because of that, we want to stay in yellow to avoid going into the black. Everybody has to rest at some point. We'll get into that later. But anytime you expect any level of possible danger and you're the guy that's in charge of protecting people, you're going to want to stay in the yellow to avoid going to the black. All right, let's talk about the general attitude that a fighter has to have, right? Can't be a weak person, can't be weak-willed, can't be weak-minded. We have to have the never quit aggressive attitude. First, stupidity is not bravery, all right? It's cowardice that's the enemy. We're not looking to prove how tough and strong we are. We're looking to make sure that principally, fundamentally, we are never a coward. Okay, that's going to help us avoid confusing something that's stupid as something that's brave. All right, hesitation will kill you. Do not hesitate. Do not hesitate. Do not hesitate. All right, fortune favors the bold. It's kind of saying the same thing here, right? Cowardice is basically the lack of action. When presented with a bunch of options and none of them great, you chose to do nothing because that was the safest option. And we're saying, don't do that. Fortune favors those who act boldly. And if you do hesitate, that will ultimately cause you or your comrades to die. Wonderful. Goodness. All right. So there's tons of cringe sayings, right? From they're going to have to take it from my cold dead hands to death before dishonor and blah, 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 blah. Ultimately, the sum total of all these is do not quit. No matter how cold, no matter how tired, no matter how chaotic the battle space, no matter how dangerous the upcoming mission is, no matter, depending on the situation, even if you've been injured or whatever the case is, if I draw a breath, I continue to fight. No matter what, you must press on, okay? Now, this is an attitude, but it must be built through training your body and your mind. It's necessary to accomplish this mindset. If you're crawling out of your mom's basement from eating chicken nuggets all day long, every day, for the first time, it doesn't matter how much of a lion's heart you've got. You're not going to be able to force yourself into these situations. Okay, ultimately, you're going to have to train your body And then with your trained body, both physically capable and trained in the skill set of fighting or gunfighting, and then you're going to have to put yourself in certain scenarios, right? You're going to have to go to jiu-jitsu class. You're going to have to go shoot competition. You're going to have to go walk with all of your gear on for 10 miles, whatever, incrementally, more and more on a regular basis. And ultimately, after a few years, that's going to create a situation where you're highly confident in yourself. So even when you're cold, tired, it's a chaotic situation and you know it's dangerous, you also know that you're an extremely capable individual. So you can kind of muster the courage necessary to be, aggressive and never quit. Cool. All right. So again, this is all talking about just your prepared citizen, EDC, back when men used to be men. This is just how life was, generally speaking. All right, now if we find ourselves amidst, continual exposure to danger, a combat situation, a law enforcement officer that works in a large city, Red Dawn, zombie apocalypse, whatever, right? We're going to have combat stress and combat fatigue. All right, so combat stress, adrenaline, fear, and uncertainty make thinking and acting on the battlefield difficult. All right, this is the literal and non-literal fog of war. That's what this is. Individual skills and muscle memory are going to be important, right? The reason that we need to be able to aim our weapon, shoot our weapon, reload our weapon, and clear malfunctions effectively, not for Instagram highlight reels, but be able to do it every time efficiently, no matter what, in a not ridiculously slow manner, is so that we don't have to put mental energy into doing that. To work the gun, it just happens. Just like when I walk, I don't think and then move my left foot and then move my right foot. I'm like, oh, I need to go over there. And I just walk over there, right? I need to be like, oh, I need to shoot that guy. And I just shoot him. Oh, my gun's dry. And I just fix it. Oh, my gun has a problem. And then I fix it. I don't have to try to use a bunch of brain power to understand what's going on. It just happens. Similarly, but on a team and squad level, rehearsed battle drills, right? Establishing a support by fire and maneuver, fire and movement, gaining a foothold in urban terrain, clearing a trench, blah, 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 right? Though often they'll need to be adjusted, they're a great way to get the ball rolling. As soon as you kind of identify the general idea of what's going on, you can just yell out a battle drill, whatever the case is, and according to standard operating procedure, that's SOP, start to just immediately put people into place without having to micromanage, say, and you go here, and you go here, and you go here. And so once the ball is rolling and the situation continues to develop, your team and squad leaders can make adjustments to that generic battle plan. Cool. All right. Discipline makes it easier to manage your emotions, right? Adrenaline, fear, and uncertainty. Discipline will make it easier to manage your emotions. Discipline is a transferable skill. This is why the military makes you do a bunch of gay shit that I hated all the time, like uniform inspections and cleaning your room to ridiculous standards, marching around, remembering dumbass ditties. The point is, if I can get you to polish your boots right or whatever, then I'll also know when it comes time for you to stand fire watch or clear a minefield, you will do that correctly, even if you're tired or scared or you have a bunch of adrenaline, because you're disciplined. So rather than doing what you want based on your emotions, you're going to do what you've been instructed to do or what you need to do or what you know to do, because that's discipline. Got it? Cool. Aggression, having an aggressive attitude, coming back up here, right? So now we're taking the fact we've built an aggressive attitude from training our body and mind. So now that we can be aggressive, aggression will allow us to transmute fear that we experience into the battlefield into anger, which is a more useful emotion for action, right? I know you're not allowed to be angry in 2025, especially as a white man. It's forbidden, strictly forbidden. But when it comes to a combat environment, basically being able to transmute any negative emotion you have into anger is a extremely valuable skill. Cool. Water break. Goodness gracious, boys and girls. All right. The mind games that individuals play with themselves. Typically, there's blah, 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 blah. Mind games people play with themselves to trick their brains into being brave, right? Because nobody wants to die. So how do you act fearless in the face of ultimate fear? Well, you've got to play some mind games with yourself. There's three different ways to do this that I've seen. Most people mix all three, but they have one that is like the big squeeze for them. All right. Some people trick themselves to say, I'll live forever, whether, this is in an eternal afterlife, or you think that everybody in the world is an NPC and you're the only real person, or a smaller level. I did a little bit of this in my time in. I would always say to myself and out loud to everybody, I don't get injured, right? Anytime someone's like, oh, be careful with that, I'd say, oh, I don't get injured. Literally, like, speaking into reality, injury cometh not for me. And largely speaking, pretty much more largely so than any of my peers, that was good for me. I avoided major injuries. I never had any time out. I never, started having pieces of me missing. I never had any bones snap in half or anything crazy like that. So that worked out well for me. The second way to do this is the I'm already dead, pre-death acceptance, right? Depending on how your personal interpretation of it is, this also could be the I have an eternal afterlife once this life's over, right? So I don't even care if I die. And the other way of looking at that eternal afterlife is that I live forever. So death isn't death. It's life 2.0, whatever. Another way, a non-religious way, is to, however, you need to philosophically or spiritually process the fact that you're a mortal being and at some point you will die, and say whatever, right? It's better to live an interesting life, a short interesting life, than a long boring life, right? That's like, it's better to live one day as a lion than 100 days as a sheep. Yeah, right. This was big. This was what I did. I was just like, dealt with the fact that death comes for me, and I wasn't going to let that slow me down, or I wasn't going to live my life questioning what could be because I was too busy being safe. I was going to find out, and if that got me, then oh well. And then this was also huge for me, and I'm sure it's huge for a lot of other people, not even in the Marine Corps, like other than being in the Marine Corps. But I know that the Marine Corps plays big into this. It's, I'm something bigger than me, and I must act in accordance with that. And in the Marine Corps, they call that a spirit of corpse. So I'll just make it personal. In the Marine Corps, Marines are known for acting a certain way, never surrendering, fighting, real tough and all that jazz. So basically, it's indoctrinated into you that you can't fuck that up. Now that you're a Marine, that has to be what you do. And you can't get selfish and be like, I'm going to go be safe, and then ruin the reputation of the Marine Corps. So that's how, another way that it can force you into acting in a way that is how you would not yourself normally act, because now you're not yourself. Now you're a Marine, or insert whatever, right? And that thing, that a Marine or whatever, acts this way. And now because I'm that, I have to act that way. Great. Combat fatigue. The constant threat of death, prolonged physical and mental exhaustion, and overstimulation of the adrenaline and dopamine receptors in the brain will ultimately lead to reckless behavior, complacency, and lack of empathy. Okay? So, yeah, for this being on the internet for forever, I'll try not to get too detailed about this, but ultimately, the more continued stress you're under, the less locked on you're going to be, right? So discipline can help mitigate this, right? Again, discipline is a direct combatant to you acting emotional, and this is an emotional state, right? You're getting all tired and burnt out, and it's the emotion of not caring. So discipline will force you to care even if you don't care. Hitting the same kind of concept, and perhaps from a different angle, is a sense of duty, right? If not personal discipline, then duty. Duty to yourself, duty to your fellow warfighters, duty to your squad. Like, if you're the leader, goodness gracious. Duty to your squad leader. If you're that young warfighter, duty to your country, duty to your family, whatever, right? Duty. You have a duty. And so it doesn't matter that you're all burnt out. You still have to act accordingly. Enforcing professional standards and small details will help breed discipline, which will help combat this, right? So making sure everybody has their weapon on safe all the time. Making sure that everybody's topping off their water and cleaning their gear and refilling mags when they get back from patrol. Making sure... whatever, right? Whatever the applicable thing is for you in your situation, making sure that all the little details get done every time, even if it kind of maybe doesn't matter if it happens every once in a while, right? Doesn't matter. No, we do it right every damn time. That's going to help fight complacency really well. All right. Ultimately, though, we can't just be in a combat environment for 15 years. At some point, it doesn't matter what's going on, how long the war is, or what the situation is, we're going to have to rotate people out. You need a rest cycle. You need time off the front lines. You need a vacation from being a detective or a patrol cop nonstop. You need times where you are just chilling. You need to be allowed to go to the white, which we'll talk more about later, right? But so also getting that rest helps reset this reckless behavior, complacency, and lack of empathy. So it's important to give your guys rest cycles, which we've seen even in like World War II. They would give guys time off. They would bring them off the front line. Same thing, Vietnam. They'd bring them off the front line, give them some time off in a more chill area, and then rotate them back out, right? Even if it's not feasible to bring somebody all the way home, we want to give them rest cycles. How long can you stay locked in? How long are you good to go? In my experience from combat environments and what I've seen people around me, the first 30 days you're pretty rock solid, super locked on. The first 3 months you're still really feeling pretty good. Usually by about after that it slowly starts to slip, right? Month 4, 5, 6. In my experiences, they pull us out around month 7, 6, 7, 8, depending on the exact situation. And I think that's right on key. That's right when it's starting to get pretty difficult to continue to be operating professionally, I've found. The Army does year-long deployments. That's pretty brutal. I did an 11-month deployment. It wasn't a combat deployment, though, but it was still extremely mentally stressful. And definitely by the end of that 11 months at sea on the 22nd MEU, again, there was no combat stress involved, but I was done. I was not in a good mental headspace. I needed chill time. Cool. So, after all that, if you've been exposed to combat stress and combat fatigue, you're going to have to deal with post-combat mental health, which most people probably don't think of or didn't expect with this video. It doesn't exactly perfectly fit, but it is part of the mental situation of all warfighters. So, post-combat moral dilemma and its prevention. The best way to avoid post-combat moral dilemma, or another way of saying that is of a big part of what PTSD is, is to have clear and realistic understandings of what you're going to be exposed to and why you are exposing yourself to it. Right, again, this is the YouTube, so war is a very not good time, and you're going to see a bunch of not nice things. Not only are people going to be actively trying to hurt you, and you're going to be actively trying to hurt people, but oftentimes there's a population of individuals that are living amongst all of this hurting. And yeah, you're going to see all that. So be aware of that, understand it, and then I'm not here to tell you why you want to do it, but know yourself why it is you're going to do it. If you come to ethical conclusions before combat about the realistic situations you'll be exposed to, you will have a very low amount or not any moral dilemma for what you deal with after you're in that combat, right? Post-combat. So a big part of moral dilemma, which is a big part of PTSD, is people didn't understand what they were going to be exposed to, or they didn't understand why they were going to do it. So then they went and did this unimaginable thing for reasons that they weren't even sure about, and now they have a very difficult time processing all of that. There's a bunch of does not compute issues there. So don't let that be you. And that's all work you do beforehand. All right. Delayed emotional processing. The best way I can describe dealing with emotions in combat is that you put it all on hold. You can ignore any emotion in the moment of a fight, but that emotion never disappears. It lingers until you process it. The more you shut down your emotional system, the more taxing the burden becomes. Eventually, it will break a person, sometimes temporarily, sometimes permanently. Okay. So, in a fight, you must ignore emotions, but you should process them before they force their own resurfacing. Okay. So again, in the war, you're going to see a bunch of bad things, and those bad things are going to make you feel a way, right? Whether maybe you weren't even involved in the doing of those things, but you just saw it happen to other people, whatever the case is, right? And those are going to make you feel a way. Any human, doesn't matter how big of a tough guy you are. And you're not going to be able to deal with those emotions, right? We can't all, stop mid-gunfight, TV timeout. Now we're going to cry for a while, have a big cry about it, and feel good. This isn't the Girl Scouts. So being a tough guy isn't not having emotion. It's putting that emotion on hold and dealing with it in a more appropriate time. Okay, but a lot of guys that are trying to be tough guys make the mistake of just trying to permanently put it on hold and never deal with it. And those emotions demand to be dealt with. They will resurface. They will resurface in negative ways with negative forces and have negative outcomes in your life. So understanding you need to deal with your emotions and doing so in a healthy way at a healthy time is the healthy approach. All right, so open and honest communication with trusted people, often other warriors, is the best way to handle that, right? Nothing new there. Doing art is awesome. Okay, this doesn't have to be drawing and painting, but it totally can be. It could be writing, it could be music, it could be lots of things, right? It could be philosophy, like getting involved in philosophy or writing. It could be, there's lots of different shit that's art, right? It's some way for you to externalize your internal emotions in a healthy environment rather than letting them internally fester. All right, basically, I already said it for art. Writing or alternative narrative process is also, it's another form of art. I will on purpose not get into this, but not get into this that much. But I do want to say plants, not pills. Okay, if you go to the doctor, if you go to the VA, if you go to the common wisdom of 2025, the system is just going to want to put you on some SSRIs or some opiates or whatever. And that's not cool. I don't think that's not cool. Nothing is a blanket statement, just like tactics, but it's everything. Nothing is a never, nothing is an always, nothing is an everybody, nothing is a nobody. Okay, so everybody listening to this, you're an individual. Be intelligent, be wise. I'm just some random asshole on the internet. But if you need chemical intervention for your brain health, I think trying to keep it as natural and with the least amount of downsides as possible is definitely the best. right? And ultimately, we want to get to healthy on our own, if ever possible, with nothing, rather than forming chemical dependencies. Cool. Again, last point I'll make on the plants not pills is I'm talking to grown ass men dealing with post combat mental health. Okay, so I'm not talking to 16-year-olds that are sitting on their couch and have never done anything. I'm talking about capable, ambitious, proven adult men. Okay? Just last point on that. Got it. Great. Cool. All right. Turning off after getting stuck on. Going back to Cooper's color code, permanently avoiding the white state can lead to a stress-induced health issue. You must rest. At some point, you must let your guard down and chill. This, however, can prove difficult after cultivating the skill of keeping yourself aware. The light switch gets stuck in the on position, so to speak. If that happens to you, steps must be taken to force yourself into a restful state. All right, so I have found personally a big thing that prevents me from achieving physical and mental rest is feeling like I haven't accomplished enough throughout the day. So if I establish goals, and then I can clearly accomplish those goals, then I can kind of tell myself I've done enough and allow myself time to rest. Next point, meditation and mindfulness is huge for a lot of things that you might be experiencing with your mental health journey, but definitely for chilling down, it's awesome, right? And meditation and mindfulness is not a game to be won, it's just a game to be played. So it's not about how good you are at it or comparing yourself to anybody else. It's just about participating in the game. All right. Intense exercise. Intense exercise is great. Wears yourself out, releases the proper hormones in your brain, and it can make the difference between sleeping at night or not sleeping at night. And then, just to say it again, but I won't say anything more than it, I think 9 times out of 10, generally speaking, plants are better than pills if you have to have some sort of substance to help you chill out, lower your blood pressure, reduce your anxiety, or go to sleep. All right, boys and girls. That is the warrior mindset and all of the mind games that a warrior must deal with. Yep, that's it. See y'all next time.